In this lesson, you'll learn some special uses of the verb to be. Now, this lesson is for you, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced level student, because everyone makes these kind of mistakes, okay? So what we'll do is first we'll do a little quiz to see where you are today. Then I'll explain 3 simple ways in which you can always know what's right. And then we'll do a little review, okay? So let's get started. All right. So what you need to do is just tell me whether we should say is or are, okay? So the first one, everyone blank here. What should it be? Everyone is or everyone are? Ready? Okay. Okay, so here it should be everyone is here. Now, if you got it wrong, don't worry. I'm going to explain everything after this section, okay? Number 2, some of the equipment blank heavy. Some of the equipment is or some of the equipment are. What's the right answer? Do you know? It should be is, okay? Again, I will explain why afterwards. Next, these flowers is lovely or these flowers are lovely. What's right? These flowers are lovely. Very good. Number 4, blank anybody home? Is anybody home? Or do we say are anybody home? What's the right answer? Is anybody home? Okay. Number 5, all the phone lines is busy or all the phone lines are busy. What's the right answer? Should be. Okay. And number 6, none of this information is correct or are correct. Think about it. Okay. So none of this information is correct. Okay? Now, if you didn't understand why it's like that, or if you got even one of these wrong, please make sure to watch the next section, because when we're talking about the verb to be, right, with is or are, these are very basic words. And if you get it wrong, it's kind of a bad mistake to make, all right? And you don't want to make it. But after you watch the next part, you'll understand exactly what to do. Okay, so now let's look at the 3 areas where you might have made a mistake, okay? And I'm going to explain it to you so that you understand exactly what the right answer is and why, all right? Okay, so the first is in these kind of words like everyone, everybody, someone, somebody, no one, nobody. Now, these are sometimes confusing because especially here, everyone sounds like a lot of people, right? But the way you have to think about it is that in English, everyone is still one and therefore singular, and everyone as a group is still one group and therefore it's still singular. So, therefore, with all of these kind of words, we need to use the singular verb is. Everyone is. Someone is. No one is. Okay? And then whatever you want to say. Okay? Everyone is happy. Everyone is here. Everyone is studying. Whatever. Okay? But the main thing is that with all of these words, use the singular verb is. Okay? All right. Now, let's go to a second category where sometimes students make mistakes. This, that, these, and those. Now, this and that, first of all, are singular. Okay? So they take the verb is. This is lovely. That is lovely. These and those are plural. So they take the plural verb are. These are lovely. Those are lovely. Okay? Let's say we're talking about flowers. All right? Now, when you're trying to understand this and that and these and those, in case you haven't mastered it already, I do have a separate lesson exactly on that subject, which you can watch. Because really, when we're talking about this and that, you're thinking about 2 things, which is why it's sometimes a little bit confusing. first you have to think about whether you're talking about something singular or plural, right? So as I said, this and that is singular. We're talking about one thing, right? This book or that book. Now, why am I pointing in two directions? Because the other thing that you have to keep in mind when you're choosing the word this or that is whether the thing is near or a little bit far. So if it's near, we say this, or if it's plural, we say these. If it's far, we say that. If it's one thing that's far away, like that book. But if it's far and it's more than one, we say those. So it's like this. This book, that book, these books, those books. Okay? Got it? All right. So that's why those words can sometimes be a little bit confusing. But just keep in mind, most of all, is it one thing you're talking about or is it more than one thing? And if it's one thing, then say is. If it's more than one thing, say are. All right? Next. This is probably the most confusing area. And that's because it has to do with something called countable or non-countable or uncountable nouns. What does all that mean? Okay, so let's look. So you could say all or most or some or none, doesn't matter. What matters is what's going to follow that. Okay? So if we say, for example, all of the information, we should say is true. Why? Because information is what we call an uncountable noun. We cannot count it. But here, if we look at this one, all of the reports are. So reports is a plural noun. It's a countable noun, something we can count. So the countable nouns are plural or singular, depends what we are talking about. And the the uncountable noun, like information, is always singular. Okay? Now, how do you know if a word is countable or uncountable? Well, you can learn that, okay? One of the ways you can learn it is you can also download a resource that I've written on engVid, and we have a list categorized, okay, to explain to you exactly which nouns you can count and which nouns you cannot count in English. And that's important because that issue can cause lots of problems whenever you speak English, even with basic verbs like is and are with the verb to be, right? So, but to give you an example, luggage is a non-count verb, but suitcases is countable. So we would say all of the luggage is here, or all of the suitcases are here. Okay? So you see what happened there? All of them are. All of it is. Okay? So the non-count is always singular. Also, what else is singular? And what else is considered a non-count verb, non-count noun? It's subjects. For example, even though mathematics has an S and economics has an S, it's not plural. Okay, so we say mathematics is easy, for example, or economics is interesting. Okay, not are. The same with subjects or languages like French or English. French is, English is, okay? And again, also with a lot of abstract nouns. What do we mean by abstract nouns? They're not talking about physical things. For example, love or advice or education, right? It's not something we can hold in our hands, but it's called abstract. And those are non-countable. So those are singular. For example, education is valuable. Or we could say these lessons, these engVid lessons are valuable. Okay? So that became plural. This education is valuable. These lessons are valuable. Okay? So you see that even a simple verb like the verb to be, you still have to understand clearly which one to use when and how to use it. So I hope you've understood this. And if you want some more explanation, more detailed explanation, I'm going to link below this lesson to a separate lesson just on this part and on this one and on this, okay? So you can always go into further detail if you find that you're still making mistakes or you want some further clarification, okay? But let's go back and just see how well you've understood now what I explained here by doing one last quiz. All right, so here we go. Number 1, everything blank ready. So you're going to choose between is or are, okay? What's the right answer? Think about what we learned. It should be everything is ready, okay? Remember we said everyone, everybody, everything. Same principle, okay? Somebody, something, anything like that. Number 2, this cake, blank, delicious. What should it be? This cake is delicious. Okay, very good. Again, this means one, so we're talking about singular, and the singular form of the verb to be is, all right? Number 3, someone blank in the car. What should it be? Is or are? It should be someone is. Okay, remember again, someone, somebody, everyone, everybody, no one, nobody. Okay, everything. All right, so it's singular. Someone is in the car. Think of it as one. Okay, whenever you see that word one, remember that it's singular. Whether it's everyone or someone or no one, we're still talking about one. All right, oops. Number 4, no one blank at home. What's that? What should it be? Is or are? I think I helped you a little bit just now. So no one is at home. Okay, very good. Now, you might notice that the word no one is written as 2 words. Okay, that's very common to write it as 2 words. Sometimes it's written with a little hyphen in the middle, but it's not written as 1 word as you see with all of the other examples. Okay, like someone, everyone, those are all written as 1 word, but no one should be written as 2 words or as what? Hyphenated word. All right, so keep that in mind. Number 5, most of his advice is useful or most of his advice are useful. Think about that. We learned about it. It was the 3rd category of things that we learned. So what should it be? Most of his advice is useful. Why? Because advice is one of those non-count nouns, right? So therefore, we have to make it singular. All right? Now, if it said, for example, most of his ideas or most of his suggestions or most of his recommendations, those are all plural. Ideas, right, with an S. Recommendations with an S. Suggestions with an S. It doesn't mean that because there's an S, it's always going to be plural. But in this case, yes, because that's something we can count. So then it would be most of his ideas are useful. Most of his suggestions are useful. Okay? But advice is singular because it's something we cannot count. And number 6, those laptops blank expensive. Is expensive or are expensive? Those laptops are expensive. Okay, finally we had an are because why? Because the word those already tells us we're talking about something plural, more than one. Okay, see here, those laptops are expensive. Okay, so I hope you got those right. But in any case, you can always practice some more. Just go to our website at www.engvid.com and there you can do a quiz on this and just really master this subject once and for all. It's so important to say is and are properly. But not only is and are, any form of that verb. Is and are, of course, is in what tense? The present tense. But if you're talking about the past tense, the same rules apply. Everything that I explained to you is exactly the same. except that the words we're going to be using are was and were. So was is the singular past tense of is, right? And were is the past tense of are, the past tense of the verb to be. And that's plural, okay? So in any of these, we could have said everything was ready. This cake was delicious. Someone was in the car. No one was at home. Most of his advice was useful, or those laptops were expensive. Okay? So whether it's is or are, or was or were, the main thing is to understand the principles behind it, which I hope you've done. Okay? And if you like this lesson, please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can get lots of other useful lessons to help you improve your English very quickly. Bye for now. Thanks for watching.